And we are recording.
We're recording, we're live.
To episode 31 of Wessex Ways.
Is it 31? Yeah, it's 31.
31. It's 31. And that's probably the most sensible entry. Roll the music. Oh, God. When are we going to get the openings right? Where did I say entry instead of opening?
You tell me, Hedley. What you do in your spare time, Hedley, is your business, not mine.
That's between me, my cat, and my internet service provider. Okay.
So I'm Hedley Thorneh, and you are.
I'm also Hedley Thorneh.
Hooray!
Yay! Yes. So Paul Whitewick. Just for those who are new here, this is Paul Whitewick, famous YouTuber, and I'm Hedley Thorneh, some bloke who likes to take pictures from the sky, and we talk about Wessex and which is essentially the south of England, and things that relate to history, transportation, people, places, and at the end of later on in the episode, I have a little special subject, and and to find my special subject, Paul does a game called Treasure Hunt to try and guess what it is. And then at the end, we read out a few comments from the last episode. Now, this goes out on Spotify, Apple Music, podcast, whatever it is. It goes out on all the usual podcast channels, but it also goes out on YouTube, and that's where we get our comments from. So yeah. So Paul, what have you been up to?
Well,
it's a long time, isn't it? Since
it's been a long time. It's been a very long time. In the last 30 seconds, I've just poured myself a pint of East Coast IPA. I didn't know that was a thing. American IPA.
Who's the brewer?
Who's the brewer? That's a great question. Green King. Not very exciting.
Good. Well,
but you know
I
what you
also
get.
have from the same brewer. I have Old Speckled Hen.
Oh, okay.
Today.
I mean, I don't want to
open that later. I'm a bit
advocate drinking, but
I've got Vive ZX Cola Extreme Taste Zero Sugar.
Oh my God, Hedley, what is that?
Chemistry experiment in a can.
It is, isn't it?
Glastonbury. Paul, you've just released a video today.
I've been up Glastonbury
I've been
up Glastonbury for the first time ever. When was it? Last Thursday. Because I've driven past it loads, because we've all driven past it quite a bit, I'm sure. But I've never even considered going up it until I started reading about it, and I thought, this is really interesting. And I've never been up a hill like it. I mean, a hill's the wrong word. It's a crop of Midford Sands, I think it's called, an outcrop of rock.
It's a tor. It's like
it's a tor. Yeah, but it's very steep. I mean, that sounds like a really obvious thing to say because it's stuck up in the landscape, isn't it? But I was unaware that sort of when you walk around the top, especially behind the church to the north, how steep the edges is. Like, you wouldn't want to walk down it, you know?
You've got two paths up it, haven't you? You've got what I call the tourist track, but you've also got, coming from the east, you've got the even steeper path that goes up, and it doesn't mess around with zigzagging in any way.
Yeah.
It sort of goes straight up. Yeah.
That's right. So I took the tourist one because we were filming on the route up to it, so I needed much different stuff as possible, and I'm unfit. It's such a sort of I don't know, I want to use spiritual or magical or whatever, but I love the place. It's really, really. I don't know, it gives you a feeling of sense of sort of place, the land, the view around you. I had a really grey day, right? Like a really grey day. But you can still see like the Mendips, you can see all across the Somerset levels, you can see, down to Dorset. You can see for miles, even on the greyest, ugliest day you can imagine. And we learnt all about I'll point you to the video, of course, but we learnt all about the terraces and what exactly the terraces for, what people have assumed they were for. Did it start in the Neolithic? Did it start in the Bronze Age? All the different theories that people have come up with over the times. And we got to the end result towards the end of the video, as you do, in a nice rounded story. But I would recommend going up. Have you been up?
Yes, I have. So when I saw your video, I won't give the end away. Just it's worth watching the video itself. But yeah, definitely, it's in fact the use what you explained at the end the use wasn't what I thought it would be.
Oh, okay.
It was quite surprising. But I've been there, and one thing I remember from Glastonbury, the actual town or village or whatever it actually is, there was a cannabis shop in the middle. And
that's not right, is it? Surely,
if you're selling that sort of thing, usually you kind of hide it behind a different name,
Yeah.
like, pharmacy or something. But no, they got big letters above it, the cannabis shop. So
how funny is that? I mean, presumably they weren't selling cannabis. I mean, because that's not legal, right?
Well, no, I guess that's CBD, which is legal, but that's not really the same thing. But anyway, stuck in my mind.
Moving on.
But moving on.
So
the
I've been
whole
to.
town is lovely because the centre of the town has always got people making music in it, and entertainment, and it's quite oldie worldy. It feels a bit like a Cotswold town, but with more life to it. If you see what I mean, I quite like that.
Yeah, there's a lot of people doing a lot of different things in Glastonbury. You can always guarantee that, right?
Yeah.
We took a trip down to the Abbey as well, actually, because that was part of the film. And that was a really cool place as well. It was again, you're just looking at some ruins of essentially a massive abbey. But again, it's very different. It's a really different experience.
It is, and that was when we went to the Abbey. It was absolutely jam packed. I mean, there was hardly an inch of grass to spare, but it was right in the middle of summer. But it was still lovely. I mean, there was no queuing for anything, and there was food and drink, and you could walk around the ruins, and it was lovely.
Yeah.
And, and the whole area is astonishing.
Yeah. Now here's a question for our lovely listeners / viewers. Who has been to Avalon Marshes, which is where we ended up, obviously, with the whole marshes and beyond the Somerset levels, and found the Sweet Track replica? Because I've been twice now, and I cannot find it. People say it's there, the replica. I even went to the reception of the visitor centre, which is like half a mile away. But they said, oh yeah, you want to go down there, turn left, down there, turn right. We followed all the signs, and we got to the Mere trackway, and they said, oh, you've gone too far if you get to the Mere one. I don't know. So do us a favour. If anyone's listening and has been it and seen the Sweet Track replica, which dates to 3807 BC, not the replica, the original, then let me know exactly how to find it, because I've been there twice now and I can't find it, and it's really frustrating, Hedley, frankly.
Yeah.
But there we go.
No, fair enough. I don't know why the whole area is called Avalon. There must be some reason behind that as well.
Well, what does Avalon mean? That Avalon, I always assume it's a bit archery.
There's a great photographer, if people like Glastonbury tour or Glastonbury area more, the tour itself. Michelle? Crowborn.
Yes.
Michelle Crowborn, yeah. She's recently acquired a drone as well, so she started doing aerial photography. Which is why I won't touch the place, I wouldn't stand a chance. But her photography of Glastonbury tour at any time of year is great. And I've forgotten what she has also started another group, and I've forgotten the name of it.
Okay.
Anyway, look her up on Twitter and Instagram. She's
very active on Twitter.
Yeah.
Cool.
So what have you been up to apart from that? Because I've been. I mean, it's been so long since we did our last episode, and we have been trying, haven't we, to get together for this episode.
Well, hopefully we'll get back into it now, because our remit, we were going to try and do a few more outside ones, weren't we? But of course it gets dark now at like 2:00 in the afternoon or something ridiculous. Yeah. So we'll have to hold on to that for the to the winter's over, let's say. What else? I mean, very briefly, what else have I been up to? God, I've been looking at Neolithic stone balls. I've been looking at Roman roads with our friend Mr. Allotment Fox. That was a good couple of days.
Yeah, that was very good.
He's a lovely guy. I've been looking at what else. Oh, the Ridgeway. We met at the Ridgeway, didn't we? Do you remember? The Ridgeway event. The Great Chalk Way.
Right, the Great Chalk Way.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah,
that was a good day.
God, that's since our last episode. Wow.
Yeah. That's what I mean. You see, we've done a lot, right?
Isn't it? Yeah, that was a wonderful day. We met up with Marianne Ahotta, and everyone was there, weren't they? And it was the opening of the Great Chalk Way. Now, let me get this right. It's effectively a kind of not a rebranding, but a bringing together of existing ancient tracks.
Yeah.
To join them together across Britain, coast to coast. So it's got the Is it the Smuggler's Route from?
That's the southern side, right?
No, the southern side is the Ancient Ridgeway. So you've got the Ancient Ridgeway coming up from the south coast near Lyme Regis, and then
You've got the Sarsens Way.
Sarsens Way. You've got the Ridgeway. You've got the
Icknield. Does the Icknield play into it?
Icknield Way, and then the
Peddars
Way, not
Peddars Way,
which goes up to the Wash. So
yes.
It's a couple of 100 miles plus, isn't it? It's
I think they said it's like 400 because it zigzags so much, right?
Yeah.
So it's not like it's a straight line.
Up, but I mean, everything we've probably said is wrong. But if you look up the Great Chalk Way, you'll see what we're on about basically. And I mean, someone I put it on Twitter, and someone said, "Oh, I might walk that tomorrow."
Which bit? Which
you might
mile?
want to look at the stats before you decide on that. But
well, there are some great speakers there, as you said, including Marianne.
Marianne was brilliant.
Yeah, Marianne frustrates me to the degree that I don't know how she gets up, stands up for 15 minutes, talks as eloquently and brilliantly as anybody I've ever heard, and I'm like, how do you do that? It looks like it looks like I do the same thing, but I take about 40 takes to get to that one take. But she just rocks up, whops out this amazing speech, which is really poignant and relevant and everything that's good about life. And you're like, how do you do that so well? But then I don't want to take it away from the other guys as well. There's two other speakers, right? And they were very good too, really good too.
They were good as well.
Yeah.
So there was that. I've done. I mean, I've got a whole exhaustive. I could do an exhaustive list of everywhere I've been since last time, but I'm not going to, because I could exclude my local walks. I've got. I tell you what. If I'll tell you about a few projects that I'm now involved in.
Yep.
Did a book cover. That sounds grander than it is. I did one of the pictures for a book cover, Richard Marks. So he's wrote a book called The Swanage Railway. Beautiful looking book. So he's got his picture of the steam train going across the middle, and in the middle I took a picture of an aerial picture of Corfe Castle in the distance with the steam train in the foreground. So that'd be a good book. Another book I contributed, Anna and I contributed towards, just a little bit, was a very, very good book by Jim Donahue called The Thames Valley Past, Present and Future. And it's a book about the Thames Valley. And so if you live Berkshire, Oxfordshire, it's filled with names of places that you know, but it's got little facts and history behind them, and it's got beautiful photos that Jim's taken. So very, very good book. That was Henley on Thames, the launch of that book. It's really good. Cool. Talking of Anna Dillon, we are in the early phase of our new project about Grimm's Ditch. So we are mapping Grimm's Ditch across South Oxfordshire as it tracks kind of between Icknield Way and the Ridgeway. We're going to do aerial photography and her airscapes, her paintings on my aerial photography on that. So that probably at some point will turn into a small exhibition. We'll see. If not a book, but we'll see.
I mean, are you going to do another exhibition? Because it's been a while, hasn't
it? This is probably it. The next one. I mean, I don't say it is in the end of them. I mean, this next one is probably the next exhibition, if you see what I mean. So the Grimm's Ditch thing. So we've got to get out and do that. Anna, both of us have been ridiculously busy, as you know as well, which is why this podcast is so late. But we will be getting that started soon. I've taken a few initial pictures. I don't know if I can mention the last project because I don't know how under wraps this is. But all I will say is I was approached by Professor Mark Collard. Now he is a professor of human evolution, and he is doing a project, and he wanted me to be involved. And I looked at it and I said yes. And if this really gets going, this will be the biggest thing I've ever been involved in my life. It's very, very exciting. And I'm busting to tell you, but I'm not sure I can yet. I'd love to see. But yeah, he actually flew over from Canada to meet me about it. So just to give you some idea of
Mark Collard.
Yeah, Professor Mark Collard. Yeah, he's a lovely chap. Really lovely chap. And if this goes ahead, I'm going to be doing a lot of travelling with him. So it's going to be
cool.
Good.
Cool.
Can't wait.
All right,
So
well, watch this space, viewers.
But before I go on about places that I've visited since last time, I wondered if you wanted to take the baton and talk a little bit about other stuff you've done recently at all.
Yeah, I'm up for that. I do. So shall I go first with my little subject?
You go. Yes. So we do your subject, then we'll do places I've been because I've got a few stories connected to them, and then we'll do treasure hunt.
Cool. Okay, and that's going to end on the rant. We have an incoming rant, everyone. We love a rant.
Yeah. I've got lots of rants, but we'll spread them out over episodes.
I've got no script or notes about what I was going to waffle about, but that's kind of a good thing, I guess. So I'm planning a video on loosely around the coastline of Britain and how it's been mapped over the years, right? And I kind of thought, well, let's just have a look into this, because half the fun of doing the videos is researching, right? Because you just find out all this weird and wonderful stuff, and it all kind of ties in a wonderful way to some of the stuff that we've been looking at with hill forts and things like that. So I thought, I wonder who drew the earliest map of Britain. And you think, okay, well, I remember doing a project a little while ago, and there was like Ptolemy and Marinus Attire, sort of the Greeks in the early Roman era. But then I found this map. Now there's this guy called Eratosthenes, right? So he's the guy that we presume was the first person to realise that the earth was round, right? So he lived in Alexandria, which is northern Egypt, and he knew about a place called Syene, which is 800 kilometres south, right? Now in Syene, the sun shone at midday straight down a well. No shadow, nothing. All the pillars in the town, midday, no shadows cast, right? Because it's straight above them. Now, our man Eratosthenes said, well, that's weird, because up here in Alexandria, 800 kilometres north, or whatever the miles were in the days, I've got my stick out and there's a shadow. It's quite a degree. It's about 7 degrees. So he literally sent a person to march out the miles, the distance between Alexandria and Syene, and he calculated Pythagoras theorem, etc. What the circumference of he said, number one, guys, everyone listen to me. The Earth is round. It's a sphere, and he calculated that the circumference was 40,000 kilometres, and he was out by 75 kilometres. And so he was alive at about 220 BC, let's say, thereabouts, give or take, right? So this is in the Iron Age of Britain, right? When the Britons were described as this like barbaric, ritualistic, Iron Age people just fighting with each other in tribes, blah, 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 right? Hill forts, the lot. But this guy was back over in Greece deciding the Earth was round and calculating it really accurately. He drew a map, right? So Eratosthenes drew a map of the known world. And the map of Great Britain, up in the whatever corner you're looking at, was really good. I mean, it wasn't it wasn't amazingly detailed, but it had a shape that you'd recognise unequivocally as Great Britain. You could see Wales, you could see a bit of the Cornwall Peninsula, you could see Scotland. It looked good, right? And I thought, this guy didn't really leave Egypt. How did he draw this map? So somebody else must have mapped this in the Greek world before him. So it turns out on this map, he'd drawn all these wonderful lines, of all the great explorers that had gone before, because he was a librarian in the Great Museum of Alexander. And he'd worked out that this chap called, I'm never going to pronounce this right, but Pythias, had voyaged all the way out of the Med, up around Spain, up for France, and landed in Britain. All right, this is 276 BC, So we're right in the middle of the Iron Age, and you imagine what it's like. So our picture of the Iron Age is tribes, hill forts, chariots, whatever, right? A bit of a mess, barbaric, trade going on. This guy rocks up and he makes loads of observations. None of his work survives, but it does survive through others that made accounts of what he did and what he wrote, like third hand. And he said all these different things, but no one believed him. Because he said, for example, the tides here are up to 80 cubits. So 80 cubits, a cubit is the distance between your middle of your elbow to the tip of your finger. And they said, well, 80 cubits isn't right for a tide, because here in the Med it's a lot less, so we don't believe you. But everything this guy said pretty much now turns out to be true based on the sciences. For example, he even wrote about the sun setting later in the summer, that sort of thing, right? Anyway, so he mapped a lot of Britain, and he didn't do it in a really accurate, or didn't triangulate or anything like that, but he still mapped what it looks like, which allowed Eratosthenes to draw this map. And I've been really keen to learn lately more about the Iron Age, but all you sort of find out in writings is just what the Romans said. You know, Caesar, when he was attacking in 54 BC, and he just described everything as barbaric, and they would, you know, have their wives on the edge of the battlefields and chariots, and they had the what's the instrument called, carnix, and they blow the big carnix and the war cry. This guy Pythias said they're actually quite nice people and they just want to trade. And you're like, wow. And he called the Britons the Britannicae. Yeah, Britannicae, which means painted people. So kind of like the Picts, but he called them the Britannicae. And that is where the name Britain comes from. Britannicae, Britain. Okay. And it's like, wow, this is so cool. But here's the thing, right? This is where it ties in with hill forts in my head. Because for the last 2 months, I've been doing videos about hill forts, going, you know, what were they for? If you didn't live there, and it was clearly not a lived-in hill fort, why are they building it for? Why do they build Danebury Hill Fort, and 2 miles away did they have Bury Hill Fort, Woolbury Hill Fort? They seem to have all these close together hill forts, but they wouldn't do that. But all of a sudden, you realise that this guy Pythias wrote, from where I landed, which we think is Southampton, 4 or 5 days sailing, there is an island called Ictus. Now, no one knows what Ictus was. It could be St Michael's Mount. Probably is St Michael's Mount, because he called it a tidal island.
Yeah.
On this tidal island, they stored all their finished tin. And he said they purify it, they do this, they do that, and they store it on St Michael's Mount, and they protect it, right? And they protect it until they're ready for trade. And you're like, my God, right? So they use St Michael's Mount effectively as a place to store what they saw as value, this worked tin. So all of a sudden you think, hang on a minute, this is a hill fort. St Michael's Mount is essentially a hill fort. It's a place that they're using to protect a resource. So who's to say all the other places that we don't know, you know, we don't know what this hill fort or that hill fort, there's 100 hill forts, we don't know what they were used for because there were no dwellings there, right?
Yeah.
So you're like, well, hang on a minute. Surely this allows us another insight into how the Iron Age saw their resources, and they were protecting them, right? If they're protecting them there, they're protecting them all over the country. So how many other hill forts, in essence, were built to protect the resources? Yeah, before trade, and they would trade with Gaul. It blows my mind to think that actually we've got more than just the Romans invading and what they wrote. We've got more than that. We've got what some of these Greeks were writing, the Pythias, the Eratosthenes of the world, and everything he wrote scientifically we now know was true, even though it was disputed at the time because they didn't understand science. So after he went to Britain, he went up around between Ireland and Wales, carried on going north to Scotland, and he found another island, what he called Fuel. No one knows if that was Orkney, Shetlands, Faroe Islands. It could have even been Norway, it could be Iceland. But he said about it, he wrote, and the barbarians showed me another place. And they showed me a place where the sun doesn't set, or the sun, it only goes down, and the nights are young or something, he said. And he said something like, what is it? And the night is only 2 hours long. And again, all of the Greeks and the Romans at the time said, no mate, you're talking rubbish, that's not a thing. But of course we now know he was probably very far north, even maybe sort of Arctic Circle, and he, at the time he was there, the night was 2 hours long, and he wrote this down, but no one believed him. And it's wonderful. No one knows where Tulle was, but it blows my mind.
I mean, a lot of people are saying nowadays that, every time you look at, people writing about hill forts, some historian always now comes and says, well, actually, it wasn't ready for living in. It was maybe a meeting place. We don't know, but there's not a lot of evidence of people living there, blah, blah, blah. Uffington's one that's like that. But then you think, okay, Iron Age, they have things to protect. So what you're saying might be that potentially, and I don't want to, I'm probably going off in completely barking up the wrong tree here, but, I'm not a historian, but maybe some hill forts were built to protect the belongings of people,
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
Materials like tin, like iron, and stuff like that.
Well, it was Barry Cunliffe that said, so I don't know if you know my little area, but I've got Danebury Hill Fort, which we know was inhabited, like 500 people at one point. But 3 miles away, we've got Bury Hill Fort, which is right on the edge of Andover. And the only thing that was found at Bury was equine workings, chariot workings, horse bits, horse stirrups, all of the things you'd find associated with horses. So unequivocally, that place was built and protected because it had at least 1 rampart, maybe 2, purely to protect their workings there, their iron workings. So and when you see this sort of thing, you go, they were on this little island, tidal island, and they put all their resources there before they would trade them with Gaul. It's like, okay, this really adds up. And again, what you said is very true, Hedley. We're not historians. I'm not an academic, and that's okay, because we're not being wacky about things and being conspiracists. Yeah. We're just coming up with what we visualise and what we see is what we've written. People have written, and I think we can make sort of educated guess that crikey, based on this, it really highlights that hill forts could have been there, at least in some degree, to protect resources, protect something.
Yeah.
A meeting point is a great point.
Not just people, but resources as well. So yeah.
Especially when they're so close together, it sort of defies the point of having one or another. Really fascinating topic. Now, with that in mind, there's something as well which I can't talk about yet. Same as you, Hedley. I don't want to be all cloak and dagger, but I'm a Patreon to 2 blokes called the Prehistory Guys, right?
Yeah, I know.
Really good, really fascinating sort of. They do a few YouTube videos. They don't do lots, but when they do, my God, they're good. But a lot of what they do is for their patrons, and they do a sort of they call it a Monday Mute, and they talk about just a random subject. And one they talked about the other day was I'm not going to go into huge detail, but I'll give you a little teaser. Was a Roman letter. I can't remember the guy's name. Kurt Cerso or something, whatever. But there was a Roman general, 54 BC, who worked alongside Caesar when they were attacking Britain, and he was stationed in southern Britain, and he was writing letters to his brother back at home, and his brother back at home was writing letters to him. Now, we've got a lot of these letters available on the internet, but we've got letters from the guy at home to the guy in Britain. Well, the Prehistory Guys have just found in an archive a letter from this guy in Britain back to the guy at home, right? And the letter is absolutely staggering. I'll email you a copy later, Hedley, because it describes some really fascinating things, again, about the Britons at the time, 54 BC, and it describes all sorts about Stonehenge, or we think is Stonehenge, and the people and their rituals and all sorts. Absolutely fascinating. That's all I'll say for the minute, because I'd love to do a video on it one day soon. But I've been a little bit overly fascinated with Iron Age Britain and what people wrote about it that we do know, because there's obviously very little out there. But it'll all tie in together pretty soon. Right, my waffle is done, Hedley, and we've been online for 29 minutes 15 seconds, so boom.
Over to me then. Over to me.
Did you say we're doing treasure hunt first, did you say?
Well, I don't know.
I don't mind, up to you.
We could save treasure hunt. I'll tell you what, let me just go through a few things that I've done recently.
The longer we save treasure hunt, Hedley, the better the retention on the video will be. Because everyone loves treasure hunt.
No, people turn it off once. People get as far as treasure hunt
and then turn off. So
it
both
off.
ways works to keep it in.
Both ways works, yes, exactly. So first of all, apologies if my sound is slightly different today, or people on YouTube are seeing me different. I'm using a separate sort of device for filming and recording.
We're both doing that. We're trying to up our game, right?
Very sort of bad quality up until now, and I'm trying something a bit better, but we'll see how that goes. I'm not quite sure. I might just be hearing me breathing whenever you're talking. So since the last episode, visited a few places of interest. I won't go over just my local walks, stuff like that. I went to round Williams Formula One. That was good.
Cool.
Went to Diddley Squat Farm, the Clarkson's farm, and his farmer's dog, his pub as well.
Yeah.
And so that was good, but I won't talk about those. I've done 3 camps, but I'll save those till the end. Went to the Isle of Wight with my mother and my sister. That was good fun. Now, I had anyone who follows me on Twitter, they'll see that I've had a bit of an issue with raspberry jam. So I went to the Isle of Wight. We went to God's Hill Church, which I think is the highest village on the island. Went up into the church, and they've got a fundraiser at the moment to repair the roof. And so in order to do that, what you do is you basically drop £5 into the tin, or scan your card for £5, and you can take an item from what they've got on the table. So I chose some raspberry jam, and I got it home and had some, and it was just the best jam I've ever tasted. I don't know, I mean, it's probably made by some sweet old lady, just using local raspberries or something. But it was like, if you've ever watched Breaking Bad, my reaction was similar to those that had tried Fring's Blue. So I don't know. So I tagged the God's Hill Church the other day and said, "Look, I don't care what the price. I need more of this stuff, basically." And since then, I've been going around all the local churches and fairs to try and find raspberry jam of this calibre, and I just can't. I've run out now. So.
Oh man! Can you go to the Isle of Wight and just like
I might
knock on this lady's door?
Back to the Isle of Wight on the off chance that there's another jam. So there was that. Obviously, we did the Great Chalk Way. I did a walk the other day, just kind of local, up Whitehorse Hill over Wayland Smithy. And just hats off to the National Trust, because on the way back, I won't say exactly where, but someone had scrawled a load of Nazi figures on the road.
You said about that? Bizarre.
Big swastikas and stuff like that. So I'd just like to personally reach out to whoever does that. If I find you doing that, I will insert my Nordic walking pole the wrong way and then spit roast you on YouTube. But actually, I'll probably just phone the police. It's easier. But the National Trust were clearing it off, and that put me in a bit of a bad mood that day. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah, it's a bizarre thing, isn't it? I mean, really bizarre.
Well, I thought it'd just be a load of youths going up there and doing it, but
probably
from
not.
what I've heard, there are actually people up there having Nazi parties and stuff. So
it's the wonderful world we find ourselves in today, Hedley.
It's the wonderful.
I'm not going to get political in any way, but
let's not get political right now.
It's socially acceptable now to do that sort of thing, because why not?
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah, the world's gone mad, or it's just me getting older and complaining. I don't know. I went to all right, on better note. Well, it's not better note, is it? I went to Stowe to see their D-Day celebrations, and they've got 1,400 and something life-size sort of steel cut-out soldiers. One for every Allied victim on D-Day. And you hear about sort of 1,400 soldiers being killed. In fact, that's about how many Russian soldiers are lost every single day at the moment.
Really?
And it sounds a lot, but you don't really compute it until you see it.
Yeah.
And it just stretches for sort of half a mile all the way up this field either side. It's just absolutely black with these figures all the way up, these life-size figures. And it's an arresting sight, and there are people standing there weeping. They've gone to a National Trust place just to see this, and I did too. But when you're actually there and it hits you, and each one of those was a life, it's really bizarre, really bizarre. I did Hills and Hill Forts videos. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to subscribe to yet another YouTube channel, one of my channels is called Hills and Hill Forts, and that ties in with the UK Hill Forts Facebook group.
We should have you on as a guest at some point, Hedley.
Which should have me on as a guest.
We should have you on as a guest promoting your YouTube channel.
Yes, yeah. Well, I own both the channel and the group, so yeah, I could interview myself.
Can we do that? Can you like have 2 desks and 2 cameras and just go, hang on, I can answer that, Hedley, and then you peer over here and go, oh yes, that's a great question, Hedley. Well, thanks. It's a pleasure for asking.
Well,
etc.
I could do. I've previously thrown away all remaining integrity that I've got. I could do that, I suppose. Nothing to lose, etc. Barbary Castle. So the video was on Barbary Castle, and also walked along to Hackburn Hill as well. Barbary is absolutely amazing. The aerial footage I managed to get of it on that particular day was just amazing. I stuffed it all at the end of the video, but it's just amazing, especially from above. Barbary Castle is just a bit special. Okay, so now I've done a lot in the mountains. So I went with Neil McQueen up to Sugarloaf Mountain in the Brecon Beacons, or Ban or Bechinog, and that was a really good day out. It was really, really wet. We climbed all the way at the top, and the top was kind of above the bad weather, and so it's just absolutely wonderful looking down in every direction. And on the way down I sent the drone up to get some pictures, and we got shouted at by the farmer. So I wasn't within National Trust ground, so it was fine. Just on this public footpath, sent the drone up, and this farmer was shouting blue murder at us, and his wife was screaming at us, and I was like, I'm just going to get this drone down as quick as possible, but not in a fashion where it comes down where we are, so they can see where we are. So I sort of looped the drone out by about 300 meters, and then gradually did a sort of sideways landing. And I was walking down about half an hour from the car at that point, and I just turned to Neil on the way down and said, I've got a horrible feeling we haven't heard the last of the farmer. And sure enough we hadn't, but out of respect I won't continue that story.
I wonder why people get funny about it, because
I will admit with farms, I think with farms it's different, because if people who rob farms, so machinery and that, tend to survey them first.
Yeah, but people that rob farms also have cars and probably survey them in cars too. Yeah, but that doesn't make every car user. I mean, you're in the Brecon Beacons, for goodness sake.
I know. People don't really understand. I mean, I get it. People don't want this sort of Soviet-looking thing flying over, and you've got a good zoom camera on it and everything. I do get that, but they're not. I think some people who fly drones give the rest of us a bit of a bad name. It's
I agree.
Really. Like these audit channels. So I also did a climb up Penifan and Cribbin with my middle son. Didn't video it. I was absolutely on the limit of what I can do at my sort of age and weight and everything. It was 2 very big climbs. The second one nearly finished me off. I mean, Matthew, my middle son, just breezed up it, but I really, really struggled. And I've done 3 camps. So I did my first. I've done 9 camps this year so far. I did my first solo wild camp in Dartmoor, and that was on. I was meant to do it. I think the last episode I said I was going to camp on Great Links Tour. Unfortunately, the weather was terrible. We had those severe rainstorms come across. I decided to camp on Dartmoor anyway, and I just went to Great Mis Tour because I knew it. So if I had to escape, I knew where I was going. So, but that was amazing. First solo wild camp. So picture this: you're in the middle of nowhere. It's been pouring rain all night. I mean, you stand on the tour, you can see for miles and miles around in every direction. You feel as remote as you could get in the UK. And in the middle of the night, and you're on your own, you hear footsteps and voices outside the tent. It's terrifying. It is absolutely terrifying. I mean, it's obviously just a couple of walkers going by.
Yeah.
That scared me. But I made a video on that on my main Hedley Thorneh channel.
Yeah.
I then, let's have a look. There. So I did another camp. Yeah. Oh, yeah, this was brilliant. So I camped in the best spot that I've found that I've ever camped in. Halfway up the mountain of Cribbin in the Brecon Beacons, there's this tiny little grassy ledge on the side.
Yeah.
And I went up there with Warren, and I got a video on my channel. It's had a lot of views actually, the video. Probably because of the location. And it was a wet walk up. It was pouring the rain, completely unforecast. It was foggy, couldn't see a thing. Got to the top, obviously very, very windy at the top. The wind was arcing over the side of the mountain. We had a 1,500 foot cliff in front of us. We pitched the tents, scrambled into them. It was freezing cold. Got everything ready, and then in the middle of the night, the clouds cleared completely, and I had the clearest sky that I've seen in decades. You could see every little satellite that went over. You could see, the detail was incredible, and it was freezing cold, but I sort of laid my head out the tent to look at it. And then in the morning we had a tremendous sunrise. There was not a cloud in the sky, and so I got some aerial shots and put that in the video as well.
Cool.
So that was really, really special. I enjoyed that. I'm going camping with Warren again on Wednesday. We're going to an unpronounceable mountain in the Brecon Beacons. I can't remember what it's called. I'll have to look up on that. I think that is about it. I've had to literally list what I've done here.
Yeah, it's been a while.
So long. It has. But yeah, the Dartmoor camp and the Cribbin camp, just absolutely amazing. So with Dartmoor, say there has been, I believe, an appeal made by Alexander Darwell. Now, he's a hedge fund manager. For those who don't know what a hedge fund manager is, they're like a normal fund manager, but they're likely to end up in a hedge. So
this particular one, yes.
This particular one, yes. Not the ones who look after my money, but this particular one. So he wants, again, to try and ban wild camping on Dartmoor. And the first step towards that is he is trying to ban, get this, picnics in Dartmoor. You can no longer take your children to Dartmoor and have a picnic. You can walk, you can eat in the car, but you can't picnic, apparently.
What a delightful man. I mean, imagine knowing this man and being in his presence, thinking, well, what a lovely chap you are.
Yeah. I know it's a bit sort of, I don't know. I just feel like doing the absolute opposite of whatever he says, to be perfectly honest with you.
It's a bizarre state of mind when you feel that something as big as that, which is not about one person. I don't care if you own it. I don't care if you own the entire county, whatever. The point is, it's not yours. It will outlast you for millions of years, and yet you are laying claim and stopping everybody else from going there and enjoying the countryside for their own good. And
you're the custodian of it. You're looking after it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yes.
In the same way as this house, I own it, but I'm the custodian of the land. I've got to make sure that everything that happens on this land is legal and doesn't harm anyone.
Yeah.
And and again, it's not that. It's this whole thing again. If someone say, "Oh, it's his land, he can do what he wants," you wouldn't want him walking through your garden. It's like, well, it's not his garden.
No. That argument is just pathetic. It really winds me up. Yeah. It's like it's Dartmoor. It's a national park, right?
Yeah.
I think it's a national park. The point is, it just frustrates me when people think this is mine and this is nobody else's on something of such a scale and such an importance, such an ecological importance. Yeah. And I don't know. Yeah. It should be there for everybody to enjoy.
I know. And the National Park Authority are fighting people's corner on this. They're the ones who are trying to promote recreational activities. They're the ones who, they're the reason it is in the good state that it's in. And I repeat, if you go into the middle of Dartmoor, around the parking areas, you're going to see a little bit of litter here and there. That's the same everywhere you go. It doesn't make any difference if you have a camping ban or not. But if you go up into the remote areas where people do camp, you won't see a single piece of litter, you know, because of the people that go there to do that. The part of the part of the code that they camp by is leave no trace. You know, you watch any wild camping video on YouTube, it ends with hashtag leave no trace.
Yeah.
You know, they're a very good bunch of people. You don't get yobbos there. It's too far out the way and it's too difficult to get to have a stag party there or something. You need a specialist tent, equipment and stuff like that. So
it's not about that though, is it? It's not for him.
No, of course
that's an argument to go, or litter or something.
Yeah.
It's not even an argument, is it? But for them it is, because it's something to, yeah.
Anyway, did you want to do treasure hunt?
Shall we?
Yeah,
Shall we?
So
right. I'm going to bring up a map then, Hedley, on my computer, because it doesn't matter, because we're recording each other as well, aren't we? So.
Yeah. Okay. So I don't know if people are going to see this map. I suppose they will. Yeah.
Well, they don't have to. They can still see our wonderfully beautiful faces if they desire. I don't mind. Or are you going to bring up a map? Then is that what you're saying?
I've got a map ready to go.
Oh well, then you do your map. Yeah, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. Let me do this. And I've got to be careful not to share the wrong screen here.
What have you got on the other screen, Hedley? That's what everybody wants to know now.
Screen window. I go to here. Big map. So you should be able to see a map now on your screen.
The centre of the universe.
We are at the centre, the accepted centre.
Is there a good side and a bad side of Didcot, Hedley? I'm not going to ask you where you live, but is there a...
I couldn't possibly say where. I couldn't possibly say that. There's no...
All right, let's put it this way. If you were going to advise me to buy a house in Didcot, because I said, Hedley, I'm moving to Didcot, where would you point me to?
I would point you to... we'll talk about it afterwards.
Come on, I even put that politically.
I'd point you to where I live.
Oh, well, fair enough.
What I will say is that just to the south of Didcot, you've got these lovely villages of West Hagbourne, Coscott and East Hagbourne, and these are where I walk to. So
well, there's your answer, Hedley. There's your answer. I should live there.
I couldn't. I alienated anyone who lives in the north now. Yeah, I'm not.
That's okay. That's
okay.
I don't think you have.
Line isn't I'll make it clear: the Great Western Railway Line is not a social divide. Well,
okay. Right.
So right. So which way are we going from Didcot?
Is that a cycle trail to the north?
Right.
I think it is.
It used to be.
More ditch.
It used to be, but all of that area now is housing.
Really?
It's nearly finished, yeah.
Ah, okay. Fair enough. All right. Should we...
You want to go up that way?
Yeah, why not? Why not, Hedley? Why not? Oh, you got the Thames, have you? I forget how close you've got the Thames to you.
Yeah, we've got the Thames just going to the north of the town here.
All right, should we go to the west?
I'll tell you what. Do you want to get on the Thames?
That's what I was thinking. That's what I was thinking. I was going to say west, but, you know.
Well, I don't know. You're heading towards Abingdon there, and we're not going the right way.
All right, let's go east. East on the Thames.
Yeah. So
sounds like a joyous...
Oh, it's lovely. Look at this. Down through... Actually, let's make the Thames a bit of an event here. So we've got Clifton Hampden. That's where Kate Bush lives. And it's also where Radiohead used to live. Tiny little village. And yet it's had, various pop stars live there.
Yeah, no surprises there, Hedley. See what I did? The Wuthering Heights of Clifton Hampden.
Yeah, moving on. Lovely bridge at Clifton Hampden. Beautiful bridge.
Is there?
Church. Very nice. Yeah, there's got to be a story there for you somewhere.
Okay.
We've got the Water Sports Centre, but that's not what it appears on the map. That's near Beringsfield. That's a different type of water sports. So we're going to carry on there. We've got the Dyke Hills. Dyke Hills. So you've got the clumps on the just below Dorchester here.
Yep.
And you've got the Dyke Hills, which form a barrier between the Thames to the west, the Thames to the south, the Tame to the east, and that was a big settlement, probably Roman, but you know that already. So we're going down towards Shillingford. Anyway, let's stop at Benson. We've gone far enough on the Thames.
Benson, got a nice Mackey's on the north side of Benson.
Yeah, I like Benson. I like Benson. Very nice cafe there by the river as well.
Yeah. Right, okay, so you think we should get off. What about if we take from Benson, we could take the Icknield Way, Hedley?
We could,
Ooh.
if I knew where it went.
Well, yeah, go to Watlington.
Oh, Watlington. Okay,
Yeah.
so you're hotter than a fox in a forest fire here. You've got this.
Because that's where the Icknield Way kind of starts, right? Kind of there.
Yeah, you got it there, Icknield Way. Okay, so we're at Watlington.
Yeah.
Home of the Watlington White Mark on the Hill, which myself and Mr. WC21 UK Productions Limited did a video of. He's got a shot on that name. Sorry, Dan. Right, so we're at Watlington Hill. Where do you want to go from here?
Well, I was thinking...
you are very close, by the way.
We're nearly there, are we?
Yeah.
I mean, what about if we... is heading up the Icknield the wrong direction?
I think you're getting colder if you head up the Icknield Way.
Okay, I don't know my way around it really, Hedley. That's my concern. Oh, what about Grimm's Ditch? That's around there somewhere. I don't know where.
You got Grimm's Ditch to the south.
There you go.
I would say you're pretty much here now. It's not an obvious place, but it's the village here of Pishill.
Pishill. Got to be careful how you say that, Hedley.
Yes, because it's spelt Pishill, which is ironic because that's where you see all the cyclists off their bikes having a wee.
Is this going to turn into a rant then? Yeah. Is this going to be the Pishill rant?
It's not a harsh rant. It's a minor rant. So the Pishill Valley here is absolutely gorgeous. This is, if you look at the sort of the contours. Do you know what? It might be better on Google Earth, but we'll stick with Bing Maps.
It's all good.
Pishill Valley is a dry valley, and it starts up here at the top at 223 metres altitude above sea level, drops down through Pattimore Lane, through Pishill Bottom and these beautiful woods here. Along here you've got some vineyards under Longwood here. There's an American couple who bought the land around here, and they produce some wonderful white wine from the vineyards around here now. You've got Pishill Church, which has got an absolutely glorious view across here to Ballams Lane and Thorneh Park there. So you've got, I think that's National Trust. Beautiful property, a lot of historic car rallies there. So I'm not going to dwell on the area too much because I want to get to my rant. But up here, just to the north of Pishill, you've got Turville. So that's where the Vicar of Dibley was filmed. And you've also got the Ipstone Windmill, which is where Chitty Chitty Bang Bang was filmed.
Right.
And you carry on down the valley, you've got some wonderful things. You've got up here, you've got the Warburg Nature Reserve, which is absolutely glorious. Butterfly Heaven, if you go at the right time of year. And you've got Bix Bottom, which is where the ruins Church of St James is.
Bix Church, yep.
And then basically it joins the road down to Hedley. Now, this bit of road, sort of 10-15 years ago when I was an avid cyclist, I was cycling about 5,000 miles a year. I used to commute every day between Didcot and Hedley all through the year, and Pishill was the way that I'd go because from Hedley on Thames up the Fairmile all the way up to the top of Pishill, there is it's uphill. There's no downhill. There's actually no flat either. It feels flat. It gets steeper as you get higher, and the higher up at the top, it ramps up to about 10-11%, which is quite steep on a bike. But at the bottom end, it's about 1% all the way down to Hedley. So it was. I sort of struck me. I thought this is quite a long. I'm gonna stop sharing this. Well, I'll bring up my other screen now, hang on, so I can see myself. Can you still see the map? Yeah. Okay, so I wondered if maybe this was the longest cycle climb in the UK. Now, it's not a great distance height-wise. It's about 200 metres from the bottom to the top, which is, 650 foot. So it's not a huge climb. It's about the same as, climbing Canary Wharf Tower in London or something, It's or to put it another way, 2 Salisbury cathedrals. So I wondered if it was the longest cycle climb in the UK, and so I did some research online, and it turns out that it's not. Crag Vale up north is the longest cycle climb in the UK.
Crag
so I
Vale.
thought. Now, Crag Vale, loads of people rant about Crag Vale. They've got, they boast loudly and proudly that it's the longest you can go on a bike uphill in the United Kingdom.
Okay.
So I thought I'd measure them. Crag Vale is 8.6 kilometres in length. That's a long climb for the UK, So I thought, well, okay, so Henley-on-Thames to Pishill through the Chilterns seems to be an unbroken climb. And that measured at 10.7 kilometres. See where I'm going here?
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay. So I thought I'd put that online, and I got shot down. Everyone's like, no, Crag Vale is. I said, well, measure it, And, people were apps. I got, it wasn't death threats, but it was, down it.
As close as you can to
Crag
it.
Vale from us. And they're saying, oh, Pishill, it's tiny little flat, only goes up to 223 metres. And it annoyed me a
which
little
isn't the
bit.
point, is it?
But I will take a minor victory on this, because if we go back to the screen here and we go Crag Vale there on Wikipedia, go to the Wikipedia page, go to the bottom, and someone has updated it to say today Crag Vale has a population of 650. It's located at the start of arguably the longest continuous grade in England, after perhaps Pishill and the Chilterns. Yes.
Arguably that's a weird sentence. Yeah.
So somebody...
Is that you, Hedley?
No, that's not me. Genuinely, that's not me.
It is located at the start.
Updated. Someone updated this when I had my rant. So the other part of my rant relates, therefore, to AI, because I thought I would ask, I'm not going to mention which one. I've got a variety of different AIs that I use, and I generally like them. But everyone's worried about AI being super intelligent, this, that, and the other. And I'm out to prove it's not. So I said to the AI that I was using, what is the longest road cycle climb in the UK? It came back and it said Crag Vale is the longest unbroken road cycle climb at 8.6 kilometres. So I said, is the road from Henley to Pishill an unbroken cycle climb? And it said, yes, it is. I said, how long is it? And it said 10.7. And I said, and it's like, well, how do you reconcile that with your first answer? And it updated to say, oh, I'm very sorry, I got it wrong. I'm like, oh, really? So I thought I'd ask it some other questions. So relating to Wessex, I'm like, what is the highest point in southern Britain? And it came back saying High Willhays in Dartmoor is the highest point in southern Britain.
Okay.
It's like, right, well, what's the highest mountain in southern Britain? And it came out with the same answer, High Willhays. I'm like, so I said, is Pen y Fan a mountain? It said, yes, Pen y Fan is a mountain because it is above 610 metres above sea level.
Yeah.
I said, right. Is Pen y Fan in the south of Britain? Yes, it is. I'm like, so what's the highest point in the south of Britain? It said, I'm sorry for my first answer. The answer is Pen y Fan. It's just thick. So I was thinking, well, what's the closest mountain, I don't know, to Oxfordshire? And it said, oh, the nearest mountain to southern Oxfordshire is Pen y Fan at 886 metres. So I said, what is Pen Cerrig Cal? It says, Pen Cerrig Cal is a mountain in South Wales, rising to 701 metres. And I said, is Pen Cerrig Cal closer to Oxfordshire than Pen y Fan? Yes. Pen Cerrig Cal lies to the east of Pen y Fan. It's 20 kilometres closer to Oxford. You see what I'm getting at?
Oh, yeah. You can't use AI for a reliable source of information. AI is good at doing stuff like code or writing a script or
this is kind of a
something.
lesson to anyone who's using it to cheat on an essay or a dissertation. And the answer
be careful.
is just don't. It's wrong. I've tried different AIs. So Warren Brand and Camp Life Bushcraft Down did a walk along the South Downs, and they went past the Devil's Dyke, and they said something like, you can look at the official website for the statistics. So I did, and the National Trust, it said Devil's Dyke is the longest and widest dry valley in the UK. I'm like, okay, let's see what AI says again. So I said, what is the longest dry valley longest and widest dry valley in the UK. And it said the Devil's Dyke in the South Downs is the longest and widest dry valley in the UK, with a length of 1.35 kilometres and a width of 450 metres. And you're thinking, well, okay, what about Scotland? What about Wales? There's got to be bigger ones than that. So I said, what is the Devil's Punch Bowl near Letcombe Regis in the Berkshire Downs? The Devil's Punch Bowl near Letcombe Regis is a dry valley with a length of 1.7 kilometres and 474 metres. And it's like you could just name other ones. There's Streatley Warren.
Tube Causeway, as in Hippascombe.
Exactly. Hippascombe, you've got Cwmid Dal in Wales. And with the mountains, you've got Vinefach, you've got Cribben, you've got, and I don't know. It seems to be doing such a lame Google search.
Yeah, basically, it's a Google search, isn't it?
Yeah.
And the concern is with AI, the amount of... I don't care about the whole, oh my God, it's going to take the world over, because it's not, for that reason you just described. The concern is the amount of energy that it uses.
Yeah. Yeah.
The water that is used in making one answer is ridiculous.
Yeah.
That's a concern, I think.
Same as Bitcoin and mining and stuff like that.
Yes.
But it just shows that you shouldn't be using AI for any essays. They must be, catching people out with this. It's just ridiculous. So that's a bit of a rant. I'm really, really sorry.
Well, that's okay. But the thing is, Hedley, you're seeing AI is just something to ask a question, when AI has already got so much in terms of how it can help.
Yeah.
I mean, I design thumbnails and I use an AI to help me do that.
Well, you can quite happily have a conversation. I mean, I don't know about Apple, but the Android smartphones, you've got AI on there. You can just have a very normal conversation. It sounds so natural.
Yeah.
And, if it makes a mistake like that and you say, oh, what about X, Y, and Z? It apologises to you in such a sort of a natural way. Oh, sorry about that. Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
I
don't mean it.
Okay. Yeah. So, I don't know.
Cool.
We
better do some comments, haven't we?
Let's do some comments on the last episode. So the last episode was our 30th. It was cooking on a hill fort. So you and I went up Beacon Hill, and that was a brilliant day. Enjoyed it.
Right, a lovely burger. You had a lovely salmon and broccoli or something, didn't you?
Yeah, and
was it salmon and broccoli?
Burger. Yes, I think. Yeah, I had salmon and broccoli. Yeah.
Yeah. Proper tasty burger. It was lovely.
The reason for that is I'd had burgers recently, so I only made a burger for you. So we have Ian Fleming 6027. Great to see you out in the open air, guys. Being at one with nature, better than being inside. Yeah, I second that. Barry Bollard. Hello, Barry. Welcome back, chaps. Congratulations on your 30th. It feels like a wedding anniversary, doesn't it? I was getting concerned that the presumably increased appearance fee of Mr. 137,000, you're above that now, might be beyond the Wessex Ways budget. Oh, brilliant. Barry Conway, episode 30, you say, time to sell my signed copies of the early years.
Brilliant. I'll look out for those on eBay.
Yeah. WC21, congratulations on beating the statistics. That worked out well, getting out and about, and of course you were actually together in person for a change. I presume this was Alfred's final flight. Yeah, because my drone broke, didn't it?
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, I've got a new one now, so Alfred has been replaced by Arthur. Tweedy Outdoors, lovely stuff, chaps. God, I can hear it in his voice. It's brilliant. What a beautiful setting for a chat covering lots of interesting subjects. Thanks for the mention. I too have been enjoying Dan and Warren's walk along the South Downs, and I completely agree. Food tastes better on a hill. It just does. We have so many comments. I want to read this one out. Patrick Lindsay, 1070. A more recent history of Beacon Hill is that it was the site of a World War II radio transmitting tower that was used to disrupt German Knickerbein bombing system.
Right.
The Luftwaffe was using to pinpoint targets in the UK. I probably messed up the pronunciation of that. The radio signal from the Cherbourg Knickerbein transmitter in France was picked up by the British listening station at Swanage in Dorset, which in turn retransmitted the signal via telephone line to the area on Beacon Hill. This had the effect of widening the beam, thus destroying the accuracy of the system.
Right.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
That's superb.
Wow.
Thanks for that, Patrick.
Love that.
We can probably do all of these. Malcolm Richardson, a meal with a view and some interesting conversation. More, please. And we had James Walks in History 3848. Hi, yes, dew ponds lined with clay over periods of time. Livestock walking through them ruptures the lining, causing a failure. A great podcast with a tint of youthful sign shame. In summary, totally enjoy. David Bellani 3308. Hi Hedley and Paul, congratulations on making that 2%. So I was saying, 2% of podcasts get to episode 30.
Yeah.
And it was the first one you recorded together too. I think we need to do more of these outdoor ones, don't we?
Yeah, the trouble is, like we said, though, winter is coming.
Jealous now. Oh, this is Simon on Trains. Jealous now. Would like a burger. Seriously, great podcast on a hill. Funny that Paul is using parts when he advises not to use part 1, part 2. Okay. I think.
Well, I do. Yeah, I always tell Simon that. I always tell Simon not to do part 1 and part 2.
Yeah.
What was I using part? Yeah, but I didn't label anything part, did I?
Yeah.
I don't remember. I wonder what Simon's referring to.
I think. I think YouTube does it automatically sometimes. I've done it on 1 or 2 of my videos. Small sleepy rascal cat says maybe do an episode every week. That would be too mainstream though. Nice episode. Glad to see you clear for once. This is why I'm trying to use this other camera.
Yeah, we'll see what today looks like.
Yeah. And
that's
finally, Davey941. Hello again, Paul and Hedley. Well, you want to make it as hard as you can for the invaders. I loved camping in my younger days. Great views from there. Really enjoyed this one. Thanks again. No, I would say to that, I enjoyed camping in my youth. I went the rest of my life without doing it, and now I enjoy it again in slightly older age, so to speak. So yeah, really, really good. If you've got the right equipment, there's nothing better. And this is the whole thing for me, is when it's cold outside, it's wet, the rain's pounding the tent, it's windy. You know that you'd have hypothermia if you were out there, and yet you are warm and snug in your tiny little tent, which is just covering your head and everything, and you've got this lovely down sleeping bag, and you're eating a nice warm meal. There's nothing like it on top of a mountain. So yeah, food tastes better on a mountain, definitely. I suppose we should leave it there, really, shouldn't we?
Yeah, well, we wanted a succinct episode, but I think now we'll get back onto we'll get a few more indoor ones done. Obviously, if we don't have the time to go outside with the shrinking hours of daylight, then we will. But until that point,
well, so thank you very much for watching, everyone. Please like and subscribe, and if you can comment below on anything we've said, please do so. We do read out comments where we can, and if you think we should be doing more outdoor episodes from spring when it gets lighter, please also give us some suggestions of where we can do this. Somewhere local to Andover and Didcot.
Yep. Also, where is the sweet track in the Avalon Marshes Nature Reserve? For goodness sake, people!
If you can't rely on Paul Whitewick to find that, we can't rely on anyone. All right.
No.
Thanks, everyone. See you next time.
Yep. See you next week.